Hello and welcome to Military Mayday, where we point out a few pieces on the chessboard. Hang on here, let me check something. Okay, good. We got some massive movements on the board, by the way. We're going to go over a couple of them right now. We got a massive rocket barrage on Tel Aviv, leaves over 1 million Israelis scrambling for shelter. Hamas launched a massive rocket barrage on Tuesday afternoon, injuring at least 5 Israelis, emergency service said. Israelis were wounded in separate incidents in Holon, Tel Aviv, Kfar, Be'er Yavne. While the barrage sent more than 1 million running to cover, all the wounded were said to be lightly injured. Magen David Adom, Israel's National Blood and Medical Emergency Service, said it is investigating after an attack believed to be the largest since war was declared on Hamas. The rocket attacks on Israel, large population centers, come from Hamas-run medical authorities in Gaza. Said 700 people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes in the last day. 2 shrapnel victims were men in their 40s in the town's Be'er Yaakov and Holon. A 77-year-old man was injured while running to a shelter near Kfar, as were 2 women, one aged 80, the other one is 35, in Tel Aviv. There's some pictures of them. Sirens were also heard in the northern towns of El Kash and Nutar near border of Lebanon. Israelis said they targeted 3 terror cells and a Hezbollah position in southern Lebanon earlier today. The Iranian-backed terror group has been sporadically exchanging fire with the IDF since Hamas attacked on October 7. Although Israelis' Iron Dome air defense typically destroys many of the incoming rockets, it can be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of projectiles fired. The latest Hamas attacks comes after Israel launched thousands of airstrikes on Gaza in response to the brutal terrorist attacks, which killed at least 1,400 Israelis and saw more than 200 people taken hostage. Massive ongoing Hamas rocket barrage on Tel Aviv and central Israel. Some pictures of it, looks like. Israeli Prime Minister told elite IDF soldiers today, "We only have one goal in sight, to destroy Hamas. We will not stop until this target is met." Those comments come as mass forces on the Gaza border in preparation for a ground invasion. Iran and its proxies have warned Israel against such action, prompting fears of a wider regional conflict in the Middle East. The U.S. and China have sent warships, and I've got an article on that. China sending 6 warships. We're going to go over here next, threatening to drag global powers into the conflict should it go regional. Meanwhile, a former Hamas leader of the terrorist group would not consider releasing all of the hostages taken on the 7th without Israel letting up on the bombardment of Gaza. Some pictures aren't coming in. I wish they would. We got more story down here. Guess not. I thought we had a whole nother section. Okay, well, anyway, meanwhile, a former Hamas leader warned the terrorist group would not consider releasing the hostages taken on the 7th without Israel letting up on this bombardment of Gaza. I haven't really heard much about that. At least Israel's not going along with it, if you know what Israel's doing. Let's check this other story out. China deploys 6 warships to the Middle East over fears of an Israeli crisis could spark World War III. Is that really what they're doing? Or are they getting in position to help Russia? Chinese military has deployed its 44th Naval Escort Task Force in the Middle East amid rising tensions in Israel. China has deployed 6 warships to the Middle East as a conflict between Israel and Hamas, according to reports. The 44th Naval Escort from the People's Liberation Army Eastern Theater has been involved in routine operations in the region and spent several days in the Oman last week. Ain't that convenient? Chinese warships left Muscat for an unspecified location on Saturday after participating in exercise with the Omani Navy. The task force includes the Zibo, a guided missile destroyer, the frigate Jinzhou, and a supply ship, all of which will be stationed in the Middle East at Israel for the ground invasion of Gaza. During the visit to Oman, Chinese commanders met with the Omani military and visited military institutions, while sailors from both countries toured shops and even organize a basketball game, according to a state news organization. Chinese Navy warship is seen in the contested waters in South China Sea, October 4th. Since arriving in the Gulf of Aden, north of Somalia, 6 months ago, the PLA task force has been involved in escort missions for shipping. Yeah, because the Somalis are fucking pirates, and they'll come through and slaughter you, rape your fucking women, and take all your fucking shit, along with your women and your fucking daughters. Yeah, I'd be glad to have the fucking Chinese Navy escorting me. Make no mistake. However, it handed over its mission to the 45th Task Force from the PLA's Northern Theater Command early this month. Chinese leader Xi Jinping said on Thursday that the two-state solutions to establish an independent Palestine is the fundamental way out of the Israeli-Hamas war. According to the Chinese state broadcast CCTV, Xi said the top priority now is ceasefire as soon as possible to avoid the conflict from expanding or even spiraling out of control, causing a serious humanitarian crisis. China's deployment comes after the U.S. sent powerful arsenal to the Middle East earlier this week. USS Gerald Ford. Now, the Chinese have only got, I think, two aircraft carriers. I don't think their third one's even made break yet. I'm not sure, but so they're not probably going to send that. They're going to keep that where they need it. Looks like they're sending some frigates, though. The Pentagon has supplied roughly 2,000 Army and Air Force personnel and a range of units on the state of readiness as Israel prepares for their attack against Hamas. The U.S. sent 2 aircraft carriers, including the U.S. Ford and the Dwight Eisenhower, to the eastern Mediterranean, along with planes that carried out airstrikes. Speaking of Eisenhower, I actually worked with a guy who was related to him. He was way down the line, like a way over cousin, but it was kind of cool. I remember that. Even more planes have been dispatched to the U.S. military bases in the region, including F-15 and F-16 fighter jet squadrons. You know what was funny about this guy who's related? He didn't know anything about Eisenhower. I mean, I was sitting there telling him all this shit that Eisenhower did, and he didn't even really respond or know anything about it. It's weird. The increased military presence in the Middle East reflects concern in Washington that rises tension in Israel could become an all-out war. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Looks like that's the end of the article. Is this not loading? Well, okay, guys, there you have it. I mean, China's now got some ships over there, so it's escalating, that's for sure. But is China putting those ships over there to stop the escalation, or are they just getting in place, working maybe behind the scenes with Russia? Tell me. If you like this kind of content, why don't you like the button, hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Help me out a little bit. Until next time, I'd say toodaloo.